Okay, let me pull up. Okay, I think what I wanted to start on with the reading on the recruiting was which two candidates would you vote that they would hire?
My number one choice is probably Ken Goldstein. I don't know. I'm having a hard time with this. So,
Yeah, me too. I feel like this was a hard one to like wrap around because I just feel like there's so much information. Like it was hard for me to remember. But
well,
Have
that
you
we don't.
guys already read this case? Because I read this case in a different class, but I can't remember which one it was.
have you?
Yeah, I did as well. I don't remember what it was though.
Yeah.
Well, well, you guys are pros at it then.
I don't know about that.
Do you vote Ken, Marnie?
I think my two votes are Ken and Natalia.
I agree with you on Ken. Their only reason for not liking Ken was that he had a family. I thought that was so stupid. I think they're pegging him that he won't work hard just because of that, but that's pretty much the only reason that they didn't like him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to talk about that later, but that goes right back to our last couple lessons because employers aren't supposed to ask about families. That's my understanding, is that's a no-no in an interview question, but I could be wrong.
I don't think that's something that's actually brought up, but that's exactly what I was thinking. I'm like, why are they even bringing up that? Like, they shouldn't be even.
Maybe to throw us off.
I feel like with Natalia, it was the same thing. Oh, she can't speak good, like, well enough, but everything else was good, it seemed like. So, I agree.
Yeah, the one, let's see.
How about you, Michael? What'd your two?
I really like Ken. I think that he was an awesome candidate. Again, like the only problem with him was his family. How's that even a problem? Um, I also really like Andy. And the reason being that he's been successful running a business in the past, and he's proven through his own business that he knows how to make it happen.
Yeah, I have to concur with that. That's why I kind of struggled because it's like, oh, I don't know. That says a lot when you can grow your company like that.
Yeah, it's hard because you're like picking out little details at that point. Which one's better? But they're really about the same. So now it's like, well, which one do we want more?
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, like, their big issue with Andy was like, oh, he's only got a 2.8 GPA, but I mean, I completely understand why you'd have that because I mean, I've been able to keep my GPA up, but I'm like so busy with so many other priorities that like normally I would be like straight A, like no error type of student, but I just can't put my priority towards that, and so my grades are affected. But
two
I don't think
million
it.
dollars while he was in school. It's like, okay, well, yeah, of course he's gonna have a lower GPA.
Well, and, I mean, I looked at his like SAT and his GMAT scores, and he scored super high. So I think like that proves that he's smart, and like obviously, yeah, with his entrepreneurship and growing his business, like he's smart enough to be able to figure that out. Like school, it's so. It's really an endurance test. I don't think it really proves how smart you are, but and Zach, what would be your other? You liked Ken, right? That was you that said that.
Yeah, I think I'd go with Andy as well. I, I like entrepreneurs. I think it it translates well into the corporate world, and a lot of good principles from running your own business and thinking that way can be translated to corporate world. I guess I'd have to hear Natalia's English. I think that is a if someone's English isn't good enough, you can state that as a reason for not hiring them. It's kind of hard to tell just from reading the case. We can't hear her English, but I
Yeah.
liked her, but I think Ken and Andy would be my two top picks.
Um, and then, like, what would be the reasons we wouldn't hire? Because, like, none of us chose Martin. What would be the reason not to hire him?
No prior business experience, even though the military, I mean, that does say a lot. I'm just not sure how that would translate.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you can be a good leader but not know what you're doing. So that wouldn't, like, it would make you so you're not a good leader because you won't be able to keep on top of things.
I think the other problem that I have with him is that I'd be worried about his commitment because it was hard to get him to like their biggest recruiting event. And it's like, well, if you're not really willing to go to that, do you really want to work for us? Does that make sense?
Yeah, and they weren't sure if he would even accept the offer. And I think recruiting is a lot about fit, and if your candidate doesn't really want to be in your company, then that probably means that he's not a very good fit. Because I think a perfect merger in a recruiting situation should be the company really, really wants you, and you really, really, really want to be with the company. That translates into a good fit, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
And if I'm not mistaken, Martin was the only one that did not do the, where they could on their own dime go to those interviews. I can't think of what they're called. The informational interviews to kind of prep for and all three of the other people did that, but Martin was the one that had not done that. So that goes along with what Zach's saying.
Yeah. Okay, what else would you want to know about the type of person who can succeed at SG Cohen? Or like what else would you want to know about the candidates and like how would you get that information type of thing?
In the reading where they talked about, oh no, it was the other reading. Maybe you guys haven't read that yet. The hiring and selection. Have you guys read that?
I have.
Yeah.
Where it talked about asking them, like putting them, give me a personal example of a time when da da da. I guess those would be the kind of questions I'd like to hear their response to, like a situation that would happen at SG Cowan, something along those lines.
Yeah, I agree. I've been in interviews where that's mainly been their questions is all like past experiences, and they can be hard, but I think it truly I think it brings out other qualities in a person that like they're not even looking for in the question. Just because you're describing something that you did. An example, I guess, like I was in an interview I was applying for a job to work for JetBlue, and my only experience to whatever question they were asking was um, I was a caregiver for 6 severely handicapped individuals. And so it really wasn't even related to the type of job I was applying for, but I think it brought out like the type of person I am, even though that's not necessarily what the question was looking for. I think it was looking for like how I handle like being under a manager or something, but I think it showed other qualities as well. So I think those are huge questions that can answer a lot of things about a person.
Personally, I don't like them, but I understand why they ask them.
I'm reading here, and it says, and there's just a sentence here that says, the type of person who does well here doesn't want to be told what to do. He or she is far less regimented. This is not the Navy. We want the self-starter. So I guess I'd like to hear some questions around that. And I might go on a little bit of a rant here, I think. Kind of our earlier discussion with education, I think our education system teaches us very well. What does it take to get an A, right? And we have all these guidelines to go get an A. I don't think that structure translates very well to our employers, right? It's not going to be all the time where we're told exactly what we need to do, and this is what you do, and you'll get an A, so to speak. So I don't know. I guess I don't know exactly what question I would ask, but self-starter, somebody that's going to go think high level, think out of the box, and do good things on their own, and not have to be told everything what to do.
Yeah, I think you could ask the candidates a question along those lines to see what their response would be as far as, you know, being given some sort of project, how would you take this and run with it, kind of a thing, and see what their response is. And I think that would show if they were a self-starter or not.
Yeah.
Very well could. Okay. We're kind of on the next section, so kind of taking a different approach. Why is there so much disagreement between the senior bankers in the Saturday meeting about which recruits to hire? Like, is it...
Sorry, I was distracted there.
I'll ask it again. Why is there so much disagreement between the senior bankers in the Saturday meeting about which recruits to hire? Like, is it partly because of the interview process or types of interviews, or is there better ways to learn about the candidates than traditional interviews? Things like that.
I don't know why. I guess I would say it's a good thing that there's different opinions. You can go as a team afterwards and kind of hash out your opinions, and I think that those types of conversations, they're good to have. One, I guess I don't know, but I don't. Maybe it's because they're asking different questions. Maybe they're not being consistent in the questions they're asking. But I guess
I
that's
think
right.
Go ahead.
One thing that stuck out to me from the reading was, or there were two things really. The first thing is specifying what you're hiring for, so like the hiring criteria, what the job is, what you want. And in the case, it said, Ray tried to formalize that criteria by using grid sheets for the bankers to fill out and having them vote and make a case on behalf of their candidate. There were definitely bankers who resisted any kind of science in this process. And so I think that reading that, and I think there were a lot of things that were unclear, that everybody was looking for something different. They weren't clear about what they wanted in a candidate, which can make it a little bit difficult to find somebody. And the second thing was that the reading was very specific that the direct boss should make the hiring decision. So everybody should have input, but then the direct boss should be the one that makes the decision. And here it's kind of like a board of people that's making the decision, which again makes it complicated to actually select someone. Those are my thoughts.
It's really good.
Everybody went quiet, so I was really nervous for a second there.
Yeah, I was just trying to. I had a thought that I was like trying to bring into what you were saying, but what I was thinking is like it just goes along with our previous discussions about having a diverse company, and I think having those disagreements is like it shows that it is diverse. Like not everyone thinks the same, and I mean they probably do think that they probably do ask different questions, and they probably see different things that other people don't see, and things like that. So I agree with the statement that it's a good thing that they have different views so they can see different perspectives of the people that they're looking towards hiring.
You know, one thing maybe the senior bankers could do, because if I read this right or interpreted it right, they were each individually performing the interviews, correct? So maybe it would be helpful for the senior bankers to maybe even pair up, because it said that then when they got to this process where, you know, they put the finalist names up on the board and kind of went through them, you know, one person's interpretation of being outgoing and this great candidate was then misconstrued or misinterpreted by one of the other senior bankers. So maybe you could even just do like a twosome, you know, like two senior bankers interviewing the same person and maybe come out with a better consensus in the end.
I like that idea. I think that's probably oftentimes why there's multiple people that are interviewing one person is so they hear the answers of other people's questions, but then they can also have like their own type of thing, but they hear the whole story.
Yeah, because then you can back or substantiate if the consensus of the group is, well, I heard this, even though you heard it that way. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that would have been a good plan. And oh, I just lost my train of thought. It has something to do with the hiring selection paper, but I just spaced what I was going to say. So, um, let me go back to this question because it didn't really get brought up. But is there like better ways to learn about the candidates other than traditional interviews, um, such as like doing internships, or do you guys have any ideas of any better way than the actual interview process?
So
Didn't we?
you're looking for like more long term, maybe even more in depth.
Yeah, like just another way to get to know the candidate and know if they fit in.
I've heard of some companies making all hiring decisions contingent, like they'll say, okay, the job's yours, but we still have 90 days to say, nope, you don't have a job here anymore. So that's kind of scary for the employee, I guess. But
Yeah.
I mean, that'd be to make sure that you have the right decision. I mean, that'd be a good safeguard if you're the company.
Yeah, and I think that they gave some examples, which it kind of fits along with that, but yours is kind of a longer one than what they were describing. But I think that, yeah, it allows the company to know really how you're going to work if it's for 90 days. Some of the examples were like have applicants demonstrate the ability to do certain job tasks or spend a whole day with someone to see what the job is like. Um, actually, like interviews that focus on behavioral questions, like you brought up, Marnie, it was actually under that list. And like things like that, where it's just kind of different approaches to getting to know someone. Um,
Probably in a job, sorry, probably in a job like that, a little job shadow, even for 24 hours, probably would be a really good idea. Because as an applicant, you might think that that's something that sounds really cool and whatnot, but then to actually be able to be in the office and doing it for a day, I think it'd be good for both parties.
I think so too. I know my husband's work. They were in the process of hiring a couple people, and And there was one interviewee that my husband really liked. He's actually the one that recommended her because he went to school with her, and she just didn't like the feel that she got from the interview. Like she felt like the company was really structured and like too strict or something along that lines. But really, the company as a whole is like so laid back, like really informal. Like it's crazy insane how informal they are. They're just chill, whatever. And like he thought that that would have been perfect for her, but what came across in the interview was the complete opposite of how it really was in the work area. And so that in that case, like that probably would have totally changed her mind 'cause she ended up taking the job. And if she'd spent a day in the actual environment, then I think that could have completely changed the whole outcome.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I hate interview situations. I mean, everyone's, well, all the ones I've ever been involved in, everyone's so stiff, they're not themselves, including the candidate and the people doing the interview. And so, it talked about how some of these people came across one way and whatnot. Well, yeah, that's going to happen to a certain extent in an interview because you're trying to put on this, I don't know, facade, even though you try not to. I think you're trying to put on a good impression, and it's hard to come across as real. And oftentimes I wanted to say, let me show you that I can do the job. I don't know. Answering questions to me doesn't always give the whole picture about myself.
Yeah, I completely agree. I absolutely hate interviews, and I am like when I am put on the spot, I like freeze up. Like I just like my brain's not functioning. I'm like this isn't really how I am. Like I'm fine, and I'm completely different than how I am, and I know that I come across really different in interviews than I do in like an actual work environment. So I agree with you, Marnie. Okay. What are the criteria for choosing candidates at SG Cohen? I know we've kind of brought up a couple, but maybe kind of go more in depth of what they're looking for specifically.
I'm sorry, I totally missed your question.
What are the criteria for choosing candidates at SG Cohen?
Okay.
Like, how do senior bankers know what they're supposed to be looking for in a candidate? Like, and how could this process be improved?
We already talked about it looking for the self-starters. Seems like, and that kind of goes along with the other article that we read. It seems like they want leaders. They want people that can come in and replace the leaders that are already there. And I think those were some general things, but that was to me the core of what they were looking for.
Oh.
So the very bottom of the case study, there was the evaluation form for the candidates that they were asked to use for it, and it has every category they're looking for. So commitment to firm, judgment/maturity, interpersonal skills, leadership, technical skills, work ethic, and then your overall rating of them. And so I feel like those were the skills that they were looking for. And then I feel like during the interview process, a lot of them deviated away from that. So in the exhibits toward the bottom, it shows different interview notes where it's just like good attitude, issues with maturity, offer from this plate, from I think it's Chase, but not polished, no accounting skills. So they're just like really random their comments about it. And so really following a little bit more of a structure, I think could have helped them a little bit with that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that would have made it a lot more clear with the interview questions if they stuck to that rather than, like, I don't know what questions they really asked, like, 'cause I'm sure they're all different, but I'm sure the questions even got off base of what the actual criteria they were supposed to be looking for.
Based on some of the comments that they wrote for some of the other applicants, it's funny. It's like they did focus a lot on prior experience. Like it was a big deal to these senior bankers where they had worked, who had made them previous offers, which is understandable, but I think so much of it comes down to just the ego. And it did talk about that a little bit, the one guy said, well, they basically need to be just like me, and so I think that obviously played into their questions. At least that's my interpretation.
Well, and I think the whole
like themselves, right?
Yeah, well, and I think the whole we need to get from the top schools, but we're not getting the best from the top schools. So let's go down so we can get the top from those schools. I just feel like that whole emphasis on getting the best of the best is already starting that whole mentality.
I think one thing that could have helped in their situation, this goes back to a more long-term recruiting process, is I think that their idea of the Super Saturday could be really good, and it helps to weed out a lot of people and make sure that they have the endurance for the industry that they're going into, because it does take a lot of endurance. But then taking one step further and just giving these candidates at that point a realistic job preview, bringing them on, showing them what the job is like, showing them what life at the firm is like, and then you having one final person make the decision that's actually going to be the direct boss, I think could make a big difference for them.
Yeah, I agree. The direct boss is gonna know what's gonna work. And we're gonna be over them. They have a general idea of the whole group and how they work and things like that. So yeah, I think just giving them an idea and having one person make the final decision, I think would be easier too. It just easier overall. Going back to the recruiting from certain schools, deciding which business schools to recruit at was controversial. Why was the choice of which schools to recruit at so important to S.G. Cohen?
I thought that was brilliant what they did. They're not the largest investment bank, so going after, they kind of found a sweet spot there where they could get still some really good candidates, but they weren't the best of the best schools in the country, but they were still great students, still coming from great schools. I thought that was an awesome idea.
Yeah. I think recruiting at the right schools is a huge thing because programs at different schools are so different, and the students that come out of it are going to have different experiences within the school and learn different things. So I think finding schools that are top schools and work best with the company that's great if you can get those.
It did say under that raise strategy section that, they started looking at obviously some other schools besides just the top ones, and it said that, senior managers eventually saw the wisdom. We were hiring at the top of the class, and these students tended to be more loyal. We were not missing much by not going to the top schools. So there's something to be said for that too. It may not be one of the top 10 or top 15, but you're still looking at the kind of the top of the class at a different school. Still says something about those individuals.
Yeah. Would it make sense for the company to recruit from other graduate programs like law or technology? Why or why not?
The main president was a former lawyer, the CEO, right?
Yeah.
Because I underlined what he said about, let me see if I can find it. His little quote about loving what you do. Oh, here we go. He said I was perfectly good at law, but I sat in the law library at night, blah, blah, blah. Didn't like the librarian, thought person was torturing him. He says, if you don't like what you're doing, even if you're good at it, eventually you and God are going to figure it out. So yeah, you don't have to have students who are just in banking. I mean, look at how many people major in one subject and end up spending the rest of their careers in a totally different venue. That's just the name of the game. I think you can have law students that are awesome, bankers and vice versa, and any other kind. So you're just kind of learning a set of skills, I feel like. So yeah, I think it would be to their benefit to diversify in that area.
Yeah, I mean, if they can do their job, then I think that's great. Like, yeah, just diversifies more. Um, I just lost my train of thought again. um, oh, I was just thinking, like, it just said who was, because, like, they would consider a first year associate, and it was those that had done a summer internship, those that were had just graduated with an MBA, and then those that had worked 3 years but didn't have an MBA. And so, like, yeah, it may take a little bit longer because you may not have gone through schooling and whatever for that particular job, but it sounds like they can pick it up, and it might take a little longer, but overall they can get it, and it's not a huge deal.
Some businesses even pride themselves on taking someone who maybe doesn't have the formal education, but they have, molded them and, taught them in the manner in which they, want their employees to be. So I think there's a lot to be said for that.
Yeah, I agree. Um, I'm not entirely sure what I think about this question, but should SG Cohen change from the core school strategy now that it's an employer's market again? They could probably go back to the top 10 schools and get top applicants now. But I don't know if I fully understand what that question's asking.
I
Being
think
a
in
market,
the piece it talked about how previously to the time of the case, I mean it was a bad job market, so they kind of had or no, it was a good job market, right? So they had a harder time finding people to fill the spots, but now the economy went down a little bit, so there's less jobs, more people looking for jobs. So I guess it's asking, should they go back to the top schools instead of going for the schools ranked 10 to 25?
yeah, which I mean, if they can find candidates that work there, then I mean, good for them. Like that would be if they can get the right applicants from the top 10 schools, then that might be something to look at again. I
Yeah,
think.
I mean that'd only be natural, right? If they could get it from the top schools, why not?
Yeah. What are the pros and cons of SG Cohen's approach to recruiting on campus?
The only negative I see to that is, I mean, they could be missing out on people that like aren't even going to one of those schools. So, let's see, it must have been in that other reading, where it talked about, your hiring and selection process should be, like maybe internally at SG Cohen's, there's hiring process could be, a friend or an associate of a current employee who they just think would be great, who's to say they're not just as qualified or going to be as good of an employee as, say, someone coming from a campus? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I agree with you. I guess a pro though at the same time is I know my husband's work. They were thinking about recruiting on campus at one of the big universities here in Utah, and they just didn't get in. And then they were just trying to hire just kind of off-site or whatever, and they just realized that like all the good people were gone. They had all been recruited on campus, and it was with all the companies that were on campus that they all went to, and so like they didn't really have a whole lot of options left after that. So I think that's a pro about being on campus is you get the whole group of people that are specifically looking for jobs once they graduate or whatever.
That's a good example.
Anyone else have any comments on that?
No, I think that I agree. I think it's really important to be on the campus to pick up those people that the great people because you got to be there or else somebody else will pick them up.
Yeah. Are the associates the best people to send to campuses for recruiting? What about saving money and getting a more uniform by sending recruiters from the HR department?
Well, they were kind of motivated financially, right? Because it said that their year-end bonus, if I read that right, had to do with their. So some of the recruiters it said were really good, some didn't put as much effort into it. So I guess some, were motivated by money and some weren't.
Yeah, I think it was like based on peer review, determining the end year bonus or whatever on that. I don't remember exactly what it said, but it was just making a point about how the associates are like fully involved in the job and they know more of what to expect. Where the HR department, like they're hired to do HR and they're not in the actual environment of where the interviewees or candidates were actually going to be working, and so I could see where that could be a hindrance to picking the right person.
I also think I mean, it's a great experience for those senior associates. I know maybe that's doesn't relate to the company, but that experience being on that side of the interview, I think will develop them and help them grow into tomorrow's future leaders for the company.
I agree. I think it would be a good experience, and I mean they were trying to put alumni with their schools, so I think that'd be even a better thing. Like, I mean, HR department could be part of that too, but I mean they recruited employees from those schools to begin with, so that's where their alumni would be, and I think that would just give a lot more push towards being enthusiastic and trying to get people from your own school to come work, but you also don't want the bias either, so I could see both ways. And what about sending like more senior bankers? Do you think that needs to be done or no?
I don't think so. I like their current model. I think as long as the senior associates have guidance and they've been taught the culture of the company, what they look for, I don't think I would change much about it.
Yeah, I agree. I think with the senior bankers, like you want to save the higher leveled staff for like giving you the job or like making it more special than just seeing you at recruiting all the time or being on base type of thing. I think, yeah, how they have it set up is just fine. Anyone else have any comments?
No, I think it works.
Okay. And we've kind of brought this up before, but what do you think of the self-selection process? Like, what types of people will most likely self-select?
Remind me what that was again. I'm not remembering what that was.
Where they went on their own dime to go get like that pre-interview
Oh,
with the
yeah.
company.
That kind of
So,
helped weed out, what was his name? Uh, Martin Street, right? That was kind of our
Yeah.
criticism against him, is that he didn't go to there. So I guess that could really show desire and how bad they want it, and weed out the ones that really don't care. Although that is a tall order to expect somebody a college student to pay their own way. It's an interesting concept, but no, it seemed like it had some good results. Taught them some good things.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it taught us really good things, as well as even though it is kind of a tall order to ask for them, people still showed up. So
Yeah.
if they're showing up, then it's working.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
just
if you want a job like that bad enough, you're going to find the way to gather that money up, right?
Yeah, if you wanted the job bad enough, you would. Unless you really didn't have a job and absolutely no money, you could find any way. But okay, what are the objectives of Super Saturday?
To
Trying
weed
to think of what that would mean.
kind of a weeding out process.
Yeah, well, and I think, I don't remember who brought it up, but just early in the discussion about how it's like, um, being this banker, it's going to require a lot of stamina, a lot of hours, and so the Super Saturday was just kind of to show that, like, see who could make it through type of thing, just to kind of get an idea of how they would handle that real job. Do any of the objectives conflict with one another? We didn't really talk about a whole lot of objectives. So.
I don't think so. Not that I can think of anyway.
Yeah. Do you think that there'd be better ways to structure the on-campus interviewing and recruiting? I noticed, like they're like, hurry and find these candidates, hurry and make, like, decide on some of them to go to Super Saturday, and it was all within like a day that they decided this. I don't know if that was like an okay time frame to do that, or if it was rushed, or what. Like, I couldn't really tell, but if it was rushed, then like maybe they should look at extending the pre-selection for the Super Saturday a little bit longer, so they have a longer time frame to decide, maybe.
Although, didn't the one team captain say that, he did meet with some of these college students quite a bit and, gave him his phone number? Am I making that up? I don't think so.
Oh, yeah, you're right. So,
And so, that kind of showed some initiative on the students' part, right? Because he made the offer. I mean, it didn't mean he was going to pay them any favors, but I think that says a lot when, you've got somebody calling, asking questions, trying to find out more about the business, and as long as it's not the fake interest. Oh, he's the guy that's going to choose who gets to go to the Super Saturday thing, so, I'm going to bug him a lot, and then he'll really like me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe one thing I would change is it says that some of the bankers were especially easy on the initial assessments. I would think it'd be a better approach to be tough initially and then ease up because we talked about in interviews. I think there's this shell that we all have. You know, we're all trying to impress the people that are interviewing us and those types of things. And if you're tough initially, I would think that'd be a better approach to break down that shell, and then you can really get that deep down into who the person is and get better answers later on.
Yeah, I think there needed to be, at least be, everyone needed to be on the same page, I think, because I think maybe even that initial process is where that whole argument about the different views on who to hire was because their initial process was different. Like they were looking for different things, and some of them were easier on them, some of them were harder type of things. So I think that may have been where it started with the different conflicts. Okay. Um, and then just wrapping up, what is the difference between recruiting and hiring? Never really thought about that before.
Well, isn't recruiting, this is how I've thought of it. To me, recruiting is when you're constantly on the lookout for someone that you meet that you think would fit really well within your company. Whereas, and again, kind of doing that all the time, right? Having it in the back of your mind. Whereas hiring is, okay, we have a job opening now, we got to hire somebody. To me, that's the difference, but I don't know if that's right or not.
That makes sense.
So to me, recruiting is like sales, and hiring is like buying. So when you're recruiting, you're selling the people on your company. You're trying to get people to apply, and you're trying to get people interested in everything. And then, so that would be like their campus recruiting, where they were going and trying to get all these people to come to them. And then the actual hiring process was that Super Saturday, where it was just grueling. And now the company was the buyer at this point, and so they're being picky about who they want. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Yeah, I like that. That's really good. That makes sense to me.
Like that. Okay. Do you guys have any other comments you want to make about the case?
Don't think so.
Okay.
Good.
Good. Okay. Did we want to bring up the Doohickey project? Um,
I'm not sure if what I wrote is in line with what everybody else did, so just let me know if it's not.
um, well, Zach, I can see yours on the Google Doc.
And I'm wrapping mine up. I'm gonna get it to you as soon as I possibly can. It should be tonight.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah,
Um,
I remember last week we kind of talked about following the example or the format from the example where it kind of right we lay out the problem and then offer a couple solutions, right? So that's
Okay.
I tried to do that.
Yeah, me too. So okay, I'm probably right in line then.
Okay.
well, I did notice a difference between Zach's, like, Zach wrote out paragraphs for each solution, like showing, um, like explaining why that would be good solution type of thing. I know Smarty, yours was more um, like points.
Yeah, so do I need to change?
Well, I'm liking these paragraphs. Like I feel like that would smooth over on paper more. So I don't know if that would be hard or not. Like I can make the format you have work too. So I mean, it's up to you.
Okay, well, why don't I go into the Google Doc and kind of read what Zach did, and then maybe I could adapt.
Yeah, I was just looking at this last question, let me find it. For each of the 4 problems, choose from your brainstorm list the approach your team would recommend to solve the identified problems. Explain specifically what would you do and how you would do it. Um, and explain why this is the best approach. So I think, yeah, both you guys, like, I think you guys are hitting on the right topics and everything, but they're just a little bit different format. So
I was probably more factual. I kind of did my little why I think it should be that way at the very beginning, and then did the problem. Maybe the solution is too factual. Is that kind of my deal?
yeah, maybe.
I
Yeah,
mean,
give
my
like a
solution is this would be my sexual harassment policy, and not so much why.
but I like that it was factual, but yeah, maybe just add a little bit more of why that, yeah, maybe a why to why it'd be the best or why we'd choose that solution type of thing. And I
Okay.
think it's good. So yeah, maybe just add to it because I liked what you had. Like I liked the information you had. It was great. So
And does it need to be a certain length? Like, is it long enough?
um,
How long to make it?
I don't even remember. Let me look at the assignment here and see if it says anything. I'm gonna guess there's not a specific length. I think he's just looking for sufficient answers to the questions. Yeah, because I don't see a certain length on here. Let me look at the problem paper. See how long that is. It's 12 pages long. So, um, I I think Zach, your length is about the length of what's on here. Um, so maybe keep that in mind. It looks like there's some points in here too. So Marnie, you could still keep those. Like I don't know. I just look at the example maybe and just keep it that length, and I think we'll be okay.
Okay.
So that's all on paper. Oh, and this
Oh,
has resources on here, so I don't know if you guys are pulling those or we're supposed to have those, but there's a lot of resources on this example paper, so I'd make sure to just have that cited so I can put that together if you guys did use resources.
Alrighty.
And I think we'll be good. So yeah, if you guys could just, yeah, then tonight, like tomorrow morning would, I mean, I'm not going to be getting it probably till tomorrow afternoon, so anytime before that's fine.
Alrighty.
Michael, did your wife have your baby?
Not yet. Not yet.
Not yet, huh?
Coming
Okay.
soon. By next week, I'll let you know.
When's your due date?
Our due date is next Friday, but the doctor wants us to induce a week early because our last baby was pretty big and there were some complications. So yeah, this Friday we're getting induced. So
Oh, okay.
yeah. So by next week I'll have another baby.
Almost a Valentine's baby.
I know, almost. Better not be a Valentine's baby or I'm gonna be upset.
Yeah, my baby, she was due July 3rd, so we're like, we almost had a 4th of July baby, but she was a week late. So,
Oh man. Yeah, if we have a Valentine's baby, we were in the hospital for way too long. So
no.
you guys, what do we want to do about Brent's part? Do I need to write something up for his section? If he responded to you, Amanda?
I'll send him another email tonight and see if he responds, and then maybe if I don't hear back by tomorrow afternoon, then that might be good. Just write it.
Okay.
So I'll let you know.
Okay, I don't see things until later in the evening after I get off work, so
Well, that's fine. Like, I mean, if I don't, I mean, I can just plug it in. Like, it's not, I mean, this isn't due till Saturday. So, I mean, if I just need to add something in here and there, like, I'm not so stressed about it to get it done completely by tomorrow. So,
okay. Okay, well, let me know if you need help with that then.
okay, I will. Anything else we need to go over?
I'm good.
We're good.
And next Tuesday at 9 work for you still?
Yep.
Works for me.
Who wants to be the group leader next week?
I can do that next week. I haven't done it yet. I think that all of you have, right?
Yeah, this is my second time.
Okay, I'll go ahead and do it. I'll plan on doing it next week.
Okay, that works.
If it gets to be too much with the new baby, Michael, just holler.
Yeah, totally.
I think we'll be okay. I'm taking a little bit off work, and both my parents are coming into town, so should have plenty of help.
Okay.
That's good.
Okay, we'll see you next week.
Guys, see ya.
All right. See
Okay.
ya. Bye-bye.